The next day, Lu Fan went straight to his second uncle's residence. As soon as he sat down, he began recounting every event of the past few days in detail, the perilous battles, the unexpected twists, and finally, the full story of how he defeated the divine deity's guardian. After listening to the whole story, second uncle remained silent for a moment. Then, smiling with satisfaction, he placed his hand on Lu Fan's shoulder. "Well done, my boy." Pride was clearly visible in his eyes. Reaching the fourth stage of cultivation at such a young age is no small feat. It seems your hard work is finally paying off. Then he asked curiously, "So tell me, what new skills have you acquired this time? Let me see them too." Elder Han's grandson, standing nearby, was also looking at Lu Fan with excitement. He said in an admiring tone, "I can only imagine how powerful your new skills must be. They are probably even more amazing than your spirit beasts." Hearing his soft voice, second uncle furrowed his brows. "What did you say?" he asked, cupping his ear. "Speak up a bit. My hearing hasn't fully recovered yet." The atmosphere in the room lightened a little at this. Lu Fan laughed and waved his hand, saying, "Let's put that aside for now, uncle." A mysterious glint appeared in his eyes. "If you really want to see my new skill, just watch closely. I'll demonstrate it right now." Upon hearing this, second uncle sat up straight. Meanwhile, Elder Han's grandson also stepped forward eagerly. There was only one question on his mind. What kind of new power had Lu Fan acquired that he was so confident about? The atmosphere in the room was suddenly filled with anticipation and curiosity. All eyes were now fixed solely on Lu Fan. Lu Fan looked at Elder Han's grandson and said with a mysterious smile, "Do you want to learn a new technique? Then just watch closely. Perhaps you'll grasp something." Saying this, he took a step forward and spread his arms wide. His expression was completely calm, as if he hadn't a care in the world. "All right, let's begin," Lu Fan said. "Now you must attack me with all your might." Silence descended upon the room at these words. Elder Han's grandson was left dumbfounded. "What?" He thought he might have misheard. He spoke hesitantly. "Senior Lu, even though I am not as powerful as you, if I were to truly strike with my full strength, your body wouldn't be able to withstand it." Concern was clearly evident in his voice, yet that confident smile remained on Lu Fan's face. It was as if he harbored not a shred of doubt about himself. Meanwhile, Uncle Tu understood the situation perfectly upon seeing the scene. A mischievous glint appeared in his eyes. He laughed and said, "Ha ha, this is the first time in my life I've heard someone ask to be attacked with full force." Then he looked at Elder Han's grandson and nodded. "Do exactly as Lu Fan says. Don't hesitate at all." A meaningful smile played on his lips. "Strike with all your might." Hearing this, Elder Han's grandson was filled with uncertainty. He looked at Lu Fan once more, but Lu Fan stood there, calm, composed, and brimming with confidence. It was as if he had been waiting for this very moment. Finally, Elder Han's grandson took a deep breath. A look of determination emerged in his eyes. If both of them were saying that much, then he was about to unleash his full power. Elder Han's grandson finally decided to make his move. He gripped his spear tightly and said with a smile, "Lu Fan, I apologize in advance if I have to ask for your forgiveness later, but I really want to see what new power you've acquired." Lu Fan nodded calmly. "No problem. Just remember one thing. Don't hold back at all when you strike. Use your full strength." Seeing his confidence, Uncle Tu's curiosity grew even more. It seems he really has mastered some extraordinary skill. Uncle Tu was watching the scene with keen interest. The very next moment, swish! Elder Han's grandson lunged forward with lightning speed. His spear sliced through the air, heading straight for Lu Fan's chest, and then thwack! Everyone's eyes widened in shock. The tip of the spear pierced Lu Fan's chest without meeting any resistance and emerged from the other side. Droplets of crimson blood scattered into the air. For a few moments, the entire courtyard fell into stunned silence. Just moments ago, there had been smiles on everyone's faces, but now the color had drained from them completely. Elder Han's grandson froze in place as if turned to stone. His hands began to tremble. How did this happen? He had never imagined that his strike would actually wound Lu Fan. Uncle Tu also sprang up from where he stood. "Lu Fan!" Chaos erupted all around. People began rushing toward him. "Hurry! Call the physician! He's bleeding heavily! Someone get some medicine!" Panicked voices echoed from every direction, but then a strange thing happened. The body of Lu Fan, whose chest had just been pierced by the spear, suddenly began to blur. Whoosh! Green smoke spread all around. Uncle Tu and Elder Han's grandson looked around in astonishment. The very next moment, Lu Fan's body vanished completely before their eyes. What? Elder Han's grandson was stunned. Just then, a figure emerged from behind the green smoke. Lu Fan stood there calmly, smiling. "Don't panic, I'm perfectly fine." Elder Han's grandson breathed a sigh of relief, though a look of confusion still lingered on his face. "Oh, wait, if you're here, then who is the man I attacked? And how did you end up behind me?" Pausing for a moment, he asked, "Was that a clone of yours?" Lu Fan smiled. "Exactly, that was my clone." He snapped his fingers. Instantly, multiple Lu Fans appeared around him. Each clone looked exactly like the real thing. "And the best part is," Lu Fan said, "I can create many such clones. Each clone possesses about 70% of my power." Hearing this, astonishment washed over both their faces. Then Lu Fan began to explain his new ability. "This skill is called Power to Dive into the Abyss." His voice turned serious. "It allows me to step between the real world and a chaotic, bottomless dimension. In that state, I virtually disappear from the enemy's sight, while my clones continue the fight in the real world." The clones surrounding him suddenly began moving in different directions. It looked as though dozens of Lu Fans were fighting simultaneously. It was nearly impossible for an enemy to distinguish the real one from the fakes. Elder Han's grandson was stunned by the sight. "So that means the enemy keeps fighting your clone, while the real you can attack from somewhere else?" "Exactly," Lu Fan nodded. Admiration gleamed in Uncle Tu's eyes. He had immediately grasped the true significance of this ability. "Amazing," he said with a laugh. "This isn't just an ability for concealment. In battle, it's an excellent way to isolate enemies and take them out one by one." Lu Fan smiled. His new power didn't directly boost his raw strength, but in terms of strategy and deception, it was incredibly formidable. And often, a faint smile played on Lu Fan's lips. The very next moment, he raised his hand and opened a glowing portal before him. "Xiao Fei, come out!" As his voice echoed, Xiao Fei emerged from the portal. But the surprises didn't end there. Every one of Lu Fan's clones repeated the same action. Portals began to open one after another. Within seconds, the entire field was filled with glowing gateways, and countless Xiao Feis began to pour out of them. From a distance, it looked as though the entire sky had been blanketed by dragons. Elder Han's grandson was left dumbfounded by the sight. At that moment, Lu Fan issued a command: "Activate the jet mirror." In an instant, the air trembled. Layers of radiant energy spread across the area, blurring the boundaries between reality and illusion. Lu Fan explained in a calm voice, "Once an enemy enters this zone, finding my true self will become nearly impossible." He gestured toward the dragons flying before him. "My clones aren't just for show. They can summon dragon pets, and those dragons can unleash their own powers as well." As soon as he finished speaking, the countless dragons in the sky began to display their respective abilities. The entire area seemed to transform into a massive battlefield. Uncle Tu's eyes widened in disbelief at the sight. "Good heavens," he murmured softly. "So many clones, and each one possesses 70% of your power." Sheer astonishment was evident in his voice. If anyone were to get trapped in this zone, they wouldn't be able to distinguish the real from the fake. Facing such power would be incredibly difficult. Elder Han's grandson, too, gazed around in mesmerized awe. After a while, he asked curiously, "Lu Fan, is this your dragon domain? Is this the power said to resemble the realm of ancient gods, where all other illusions and techniques are rendered useless?" Lu Fan smiled. A confident gleam appeared in his eyes. "You have a good understanding." He nodded and said, "Yes, exactly. The true purpose of the dragon domain isn't just to create illusions, it establishes control over the entire battlefield." As soon as Lu Fan revealed that the power to dive into the abyss was a power obtained from an ancient abyss deity, a profound silence fell over the room. Elder Han's grandson and Uncle Tu were both left speechless. Their expressions clearly betrayed their disbelief. After all, the powers of ancient deities were things heard of only in legends. To ordinary people, their very existence was nothing short of a myth. Observing their reaction, Lu Fan slowly began to recount the entire story. He described his encounter with a terrifying monster, how he defeated it, and how he acquired that mysterious power following the battle. He also mentioned his meetings with Professor Ouyang and Young Bank, elaborating on the plans they were formulating. As the story unfolded, the expressions of both men grew increasingly grave. When Lufan had finished explaining everything, Uncle Tu remained lost in thought for a while. He drummed his fingers on the table and took a deep breath. Then he looked at Lufan. "So, what you mean is—" His voice was more serious than ever. "That we too should join Amrish's plan? That we should hunt down low-one mid-level ancient deities to acquire their divine powers in order to face the impending crisis?" The atmosphere in the room suddenly grew heavy. Lufan remained silent for a few moments. Gravity was clearly visible in his eyes. Then he spoke in a low but firm voice. "As long as we continue to take the place of the ancient gods, we can prevent those high-ranking deities from vying for the God-King throne." The atmosphere in the room instantly turned solemn. Lufan continued. "The Dragon Empire is already beset by crises on all sides. Battles against beast tides are fought daily. The borders are under constant pressure." He clenched his fist. "And if even a few of those fallen ancient gods were to fully awaken," his voice dropped to a low murmur, "the consequences would be far more terrifying than we could ever imagine." Uncle Tu and Elder Han's grandson were listening intently. "That is why we don't have many options," he stated firmly. "We must seize their power, we must take their place, and we must use that very power to fight against them." Silence descended upon the room once more.